We are live.
We are live. Back from the No Name Nationals, man.
Yeah, welcome back from the first, well, I guess it's the inaugural No Name Nationals. This is the first, I guess Wednesday night Tech Talk Live. There's literally like 5 videos that are premiering tonight just with No Name National stuff. So we're having to fight all that.
Nice. Well, it is what it is. But,
for me, I mean, it's good content. The intent here isn't to answer all the no-name nationals questions. Shane and I are, again, it's Wednesday night Tech Talk, right?
Right. And I actually had a couple of weeks of stuff. I had the drag week last week before, and then the very following weekend, I had 3 weekends full of racing. I was stoked. Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, dang, we already got a pile of them in here. Uncle Squirrel's in here like usual. John Wilburn jumped in to let everybody know that the after action report for No Name Nationals is on Friday on his channel.
Nice.
So don't miss out. Let's see. Oh, the wife is in.
Yeah.
Fab Race Mod Repeat. This is Chris Cox from Northeast Dragway. I had him sit in for Professor P 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
He did an outstanding job. He was only a hand model for you, so he was just a hand stand-in.
Nice. Well, thank you.
Machines is here. Colleen Tebow, which now I get to put a face with the name Colleen after the No Name Nationals. It was a good time. That's one thing I need to get out of the way. I apologize to anyone I didn't get to say hi to. Friday was staggeringly messed up. It was 3 of the track personnel didn't show up. I ended up having to fill in just about every slot possible, just so we could get the show on and things on the road. And I was just busy. I was literally the what do they call it, the one-armed man hanging wallpaper kind of deal.
Right.
So yeah, Saturday got a little bit better because one of the guys that I was filling in for showed up on Saturday morning. He actually came in on Friday afternoon. He has another job, but that's why I was doing the job of 3 people. There was 2 people that literally didn't show up, and then this guy was off until he got done with his first job, right? So, and it would have been like seamless had the other 2 guys been there. You guys would have never known, right? And John and I were going to be walking around doing our pit reporting and all that. But in reality, it kind of went sideways Friday. And then Saturday, it started off a little bit better, but still was pretty hectic on my part. I was filling spots of 2 people or 1.5 or 1 or however you want to look at it, just doing whatever job came up that was going to slow the show. Because John and I had a schedule we were trying to stick to, right? And I don't know, if we wouldn't have stuck to the schedule, it probably would have got out of hand. Everybody wanted to continue doing call outs until like the wee hours of the morning. And we literally had that award presentation that we wanted to do. A lot of people had worked for that stuff. So
is this Colleen? Is this her son is the
is
Mustang?
Damien. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. Damien, what is it? Mopars, Mustangs, and minivans.
Yeah. What's going on, Colleen? Yeah. I gave them a 318. I still got it in the garage. I'll take a picture of it.
Well, they're going to be coming to pick it up, I'm assuming, sooner or later.
Yeah. They wanted to come by that night, the next day, but we were lagging. We had so much fun with the kids. I'll post a video of that. It'd be awesome.
So Mitten Made Muscles here. Uncle Squirrel. Bill McKyska is in here.
Nice.
Abel D's asking, why did UTG distance from No Name Nationals? He had a falling out with some of the participants that were in it, and he ended up just separating himself from the whole thing. It really was just it was nothing to do with us or, the people that were running it. It was literally the participants, right?
Yeah.
So now
individuals.
And there was, the sad part is, how they say it's the 1% that ruins it for 99. Well, that's exactly what happened right there.
Exactly. 100%.
Yep. Mopar Man 1978's in the house. LP 94. That's Lars right there. He was killing it on my monkey bike. I guess the No Name Nationals monkey bike, because it's going to be the community monkey bike, right?
Nice.
Every year we're going to find some team that they're having a rough time. Like, see at JB's little shop, they had their S10 the Blazer got done, but then they found out the training was bad, and it's like, well, that sucks, man, because now you don't have enough time to do anything. Well, we came up with this idea. Hey, man, you guys can take this No Name Nationals monkey bike, do what you want to it, and give it hell, and it should be good to go.
Well, you see they see the sign behind me here, TCI, so we can help out with that.
All right. So let's see here. John Motz is here. Don English. NSB Custom Cars. You guys make it home all right? You have to bail a bunch of water? Wendy's even in here. Wendy English. Buck Does It's here. Buck, you got an award, man. The No Name Nationals. Hopefully you've been told already. I'm sure you have. Andy is here. Andy Wood. Let's see. John Wilburn's in here. Rocky Myers. Fab Race Mod Repeat. Let's see. Wally Parks had to do it all too. I'm sure he did. There's no way to really make it go otherwise. Just to be fair, I mean, the hardest thing about a drag strip, and I'll tell you, is the job that you're asking them to do for the possibility of minimal pay, right? Because if it isn't a big event, like say No Name Nationals turned out really well, right? But for the track to give this person like a $500 cut for 1 day's worth of work, it's just not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
So generally, the quality of people that you get are less than par,
subpar.
Yeah. And Chris Cox here says Dallas never forget promoting ain't easy. Right? It's not, man, and he knows for a fact. He does it out at Northeast Dragway, and I'm working right there side by side with the guy, trying to do everything that we can to promote the track and their events. Let's see here. Colleen says there was no need to apologize. It was perfect. I think I agree. A lot of it was luck, to be fair, and some of it was hard work. And then if it hadn't been for Ron Ward, I'm going to tell you right there, that's the unsung hero of the No Name Nationals, Ron Ward. Ron kept us on point. When I was getting overwhelmed and so distracted, Ron would kind of drive me back to the focus target and get me on it, right? So
was that the announcer guy?
It was the announcer, and he's very familiar with, like I was saying, you need like not so much a technical director, but you need a program director for events like that, an event director, right? Yep. And that's kind of what John and I were sharing the I guess the load on. But the biggest thing was when we both got spread super thin, and then we didn't get to walk around, do any pit reporting, no lives, no thrashes, none of that stuff. It kind of dumbed down what was on the live stream.
Yeah.
But I think it kept the event going for the people there, and it was almost seamless to them. They didn't even notice it.
Yeah, it was good. And what I liked really was the open schedule of the call outs. As soon as I showed up, I was at the gate and I got called out at the gate. We got a call out. We hadn't even got inside yet. So it was bitching.
Well, mostly old parts and rust is here, man. This, you probably remember this Duster. Do you remember this Duster? It made like 11 billion passes.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I mean, it probably rolled over 100,000 miles just at Jeffers alone, right? So, Fixing on It Garage says, "Evening, gents. Hey, you know what? It is evening, and we're live Wednesday night live.
It's been 2 weeks for me, man. I'm excited.
Why are you asking this question again? Didn't I already answer this? Did I?
Yeah, I think you popped it in. Are you a little behind?
Huh? No, I don't think so.
Oh yeah, you're quite a bit behind. He popped it in there. He actually put that up there before you answered the first one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, let's see here. I don't see any other new names in here, so we're going on to our actual tech talk here. Oh yeah, see, NSB Custom Cars said they made it back to Lake NSB, so now they're on to, instead of race cars, they're on boats. So getting it fixed up, I guess.
Where are they located?
They're in New Smyrna Beach, Florida. They got smashed. That storm, it came ashore as a Category 4, like in Tampa area, right? Sarasota, Naples, stuff like that. But then it got over there on the eastern side of Florida and just like stalled and hung out and rained all over them. So they were showing me pictures from the first day at the track. They had like 8 inches of water in their house, or maybe 10 inches of water in their house. So
that sucks.
Let's see, JB's Little Shop. I hope this all turned out the way you guys wanted it to. Next year will be a lot better. To tell you the truth, I don't think I could have asked for anything better. The participants were awesome, right? Everybody was happy to see everybody. And it was like okay, so in the heyday of drag racing, Lions Drag Strip was described as the Camelot of motorsports, right? It's where everybody knew everybody and they were happy to see everybody. And it was like a weekly thing. You got to see everyone. The whole, I guess, during my time in San Diego, Shane and I raced out at Verona, and we wouldn't go out there for the weekly bracket races. We would go out for test and tunes and this thing called Match Race Madness. Yep. And Match Race Madness had that same kind of ambiance, right? To where everybody was happy to see everybody. You didn't care who you were racing. You guys were pals until you got to the line, and then you're like, I'm going to let them eat it, right?
I'm going to kill you.
Yes. And it was a lot of fun. And I realized the racing was only part of it. It's more or less the atmosphere that you're trying to create. That what makes the event fun or abysmal. And John and I shot for this really light, friendly atmosphere. If you didn't notice, when you first got there was a giant sign on the middle row of bleachers that said troll seating. Okay. And that's because we want it to be light and funny and, have a little bit of campiness to it. But yet everybody that is a YouTube content creator knows, the troll is actually part of your channel just as much as the content that you put out, right?
Because they're the ones that make you work harder. That's
right. They drive you to be better. And I don't know if they know that, and Brian Cabral's over there probably taking notes right now. But the thing is you're trying to incorporate the entire facet of what makes YouTube in one event. And we try to think outside the box when we were throwing the whole thing together. So I think we did a pretty good job.
Also, too, the one thing I noticed, a lot of people worked really hard to get there. To get 500 subs was difficult for me, and it was difficult for a lot of other people. So when they actually got there, like, wow, I actually earned this. It wasn't just given to them. So that's why I think people were like, wow, this is like, I'm like part of this club now. That's what I think.
Well, it did feel like that, right? Like it was a big giant club that everybody was that belonged to. I mean, we all watched each other's videos. We all watched each other, promoting each other and pushing each other to do better and get more subscribers. And Eric Albino, buddy, when are you going to do some more Buick videos? I haven't seen him in a while.
Right.
Let's see. Mostly Old Parts and Russ is saying we did a great job. Let's see here. Mostly Old Parts and Russ says it was only 15 passes. And like if you were to take, let's see, you were there both days, so it'd have been $150. It cost you $10 a pass, and that's nothing, right? I mean, it's pretty good. I guess return on investment,
right?
10 passes. Let's see. All right, I mean, $10 a pass. So, let's see. Punisher Le Mans Garage made it in. Man, I made it. Thanks for doing this, Kevin. No problem. Shane and I picked up the ball. We're running with it, and we're hoping to bring you some knowledge. If you got some questions, throw some tech questions in there.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh, hey. Someone's actually listening to me on something. Colleen, little birdie told us to go with an A999 for the new project. I was telling them the exact same thing. Make sure you put a lockup converter in there, Colleen. That's a great thing, because you get the low ratio first and second. Can you go down a few? It's a 711.
7. I don't have times on mine. Oh, I do. Oh. All right, hold on. I was actually past it already. Which questions, Colleen?
Yep.
Let's see.
Yeah, I was telling people this the whole time. Is they're asking what kind of transmission's in my car because I had a lockup converter. And I told them I took an A999 tranny and put all the internals in it. And I was telling Colleen's son, I always forget his name. Sorry. I told him the same thing. I was like, yeah, you put an A999 in there, and that way you can get a lockup converter and get the low ratio first and second. So that way you can kind of get it's really good for low horsepower cars. It works really bitchin'.
Well, here's something that's interesting that John Wilburn sent me today. I don't know if I should be talking about it. John's probably going to shut down YouTube when I say this, but it was funny. He sent me a screenshot of the trolls, one of the trolls talking, and they said, I thought it was so funny they had troll seating at this event. and it made me think like, I wish you would have showed up and sat in it, right?
Right? That would have been awesome.
I know, like, no, I'm a troll. Have a short shirt on that says #1 troll or something and sit in the
Right?
seat. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would have been pretty awesome. But and you know, when the trolls get a kick out of it, you're actually doing something right because you've crossed that bridge somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see here. Oh, let's see. Able decent. You need a specific number to call them the OGs like that. And the King of the Hammer has the OG 12. Well, and you know, there were some things that were brought up for next year's No Name Nationals, and John and I we haven't talked. I'm going to be honest with you, we haven't talked at all about what we're going to do next year, where, when, how. It was just like, hey, let's take a breather for a few weeks before we get back on trying to do something for the next event, right?
Yeah.
And there's been some things tossed around that Ron Ward threw at me when we were up in the tower, but maybe a hard tire class is the mumblings.
What
I
about
think
me
that,
and you? We talked about something. It said me and you talked about something too.
I did. Well, I ran it by you because Ron ran it by me, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that, you know. But there would be a lot of guys down for that.
Mm-hmm. That one too. And can we speak freely? Are we speaking freely?
Sure, yeah. I mean,
Okay.
unless it's something that I told you I can't talk about.
No,
Which I don't think there is anything.
no. We were talking about the other day about the sleeper class. Remember?
Yeah, that sleeper race.
Sleeper race. And one more thing is that at the next No Name Nationals, I think it might be a Blue Dart versus a Thunderbird.
Oh, you want to call me out?
I want to call your punk ass out. Let's do it again, man.
I got a whole year to get my junk together. Well, probably not a whole year. I don't know if we're going to shoot for the same dates.
Yeah. That would be good, man. That'd be a good one. And I'm thinking if we did like an NA small block, 28, 10, 50 class, but NA small block, no power riders. That would be cool.
I don't see why you can't just do an NA class, right? Why does it got to be a small block?
Because
you got to get it done on a 10.5, 28, 10.5. So what's it matter?
I guess so. Yeah.
Like that's why I liked the Outlaw 8.5 inch stuff. Because you could show up with the rear Morrison 632. Good luck getting it down the track on an 8.5 inch tire.
Well, then why don't we do that? Do it with an 8.5 inch tire.
You want to do 8.5 inch? Do you remember when I tried that out at Verona? The car went from wall to wall, and I got out like almost peed my pants. I mean, it was bad.
Well, that will take care of the big blocks because the big block's got a big advantage over small block. I know it's an e-con track.
Big time out of the hole, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And
because of the torque.
Move all that weight is the thing.
True, but still, if you got a 10.5 inch wide tire and a 28, you saw what those guys were doing. You can run a pretty 550 on a car like that easily.
Right. Well, and if you look at what is it, Venom, the Venom Dust or Venom Demon, it was literally 540 cubic inch big block Dodge on alcohol, probably like I'd have to say 16, 18 to 1 compression, super high. It was when that thing got wide open, it sounded really healthy.
Oh yes.
Right. And he was getting it done on a 28 10.5. You and I don't think we would have a chance in hell, to be honest with you, because that's a lot of car, that's a lot of motor, right? And that thing was a chassis car, and I mean it was dialed and it ran good.
That's why I was going to say that's why you would have to be kind of specific on the small block, big block, or just put it on an 8.5 inch tire. That would.
I think that might be the ticket, man, because that's going to be skate fast.
That'd be good. That'd be fun.
Hang on, and hopefully you ate enough cheese so you're stopped up, and because that shit's scary, man. I mean, that thing is. I raced him I raced the 8.5 inch Outlaw for 3 years. I was doing a 302 with a bunch of nitrous, right? And I tried it with that 427 cleaver motor, and the thing really wasn't that bad until the 60-foot mark, and where it really came on in first gear, right when you're getting ready to shift into second. And then it wouldn't unload, and it's not like a pro stocker where you start to get wheel shake or anything like that. You got so little of a tire, there's no shake. It just goes from hooking to not hooking.
Right.
You're literally skating around.
Right. Yeah.
You're making rubber marbles immediately. But
28
asked Dallas, would you junk a Rover V8 due to 2 stripped head bolt threads, or would you helicoil them? Man, I tell you what, I try my damnedest, okay, to not junk anything.
Nope.
It's not that I'm a
Helicoil it.
cheap ass. It's that they're not making that block anymore. Okay. And so if you look at it from a regular person's perspective, if you've pulled those threads out of that head, it's technically junk, or out of that block. It's technically junk. So what do you have to lose at this point? Right? Put some helicoils in it, see how they hold. See if you can get it torqued down. If not, if you cannot get it torqued down, the Buick small block family uses a 7/16 head bolt. Worst case scenario, drill that sucker out, go to a 1/2-inch head bolt from like a small block Ford, and see if you can make something work, right? Because you're only talking 2 holes.
Yeah, and also too, instead of a helicoil, try to go straight to a kingsert, like an actual. It's an insert, which got the 4 pins that you nail down in there, and that way it's not just on a thread. It's an aluminum thread. It's actually aluminum thread with a kingsert that's been pinned down, and they'll never have a problem then.
Well, the neat thing about that Buick small block family, including the Rover V8, is all the bolt holes are blind, right?
Perfect.
So you can literally almost put an insert in there and have nothing to worry about, because it's not going to end up in a water jacket. It's not going to push through. It's not going to thread in too far. It's going to bottom out. And in worst case scenario, like let's say, all right, here's another example. You could drill that down further and tap it into the water jacket, and then just put thread sealant on it like you do a small block Ford.
Exactly.
And find a 1/2-inch longer bolt. In some of those bolts, the Buick small block family, the bolts are already longer. Like the cast iron 300 stuff, they're a little bit longer than the 215. So I would definitely try it. I would helicoil it first. If that doesn't work, take it down further and thread that sucker, and then put some thread sealant on it if you have to. But if it's just a stock motor, I think that'll probably be fine. I think you'll be able to get away with it.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Rude Mopar dudes in the house, fixing on it. Garage is in the house. They say sleeper race with a Summit Platinum card on the rear view mirror.
Right.
Yeah, that's I really like the idea of the sleeper race, but God, is it going to be hard to get cars for that thing? What I've noticed is there get fewer and farther between now, because sleepers used to be just a rusted shit box that looked like a stock car, and you go out and run it. Well, with the less rear-wheel drive cars being produced from, say, 1992 on, now you show up in a Camaro and you kind of assume the thing's probably fairly quick, and otherwise it wouldn't be at the track, because the regular ones, they're just running up and down the street.
Yeah.
So I don't know how well that's going to go, but I don't know. I think it's worth a try, but I'd really like to do that one at the Match Race Madness up in Iowa. I think that one's going to work out well. We had a lot of fun. Match Race Madness 2018, 19. Yeah. So 1920. Okay. Colleen saying that extra porta potties would be great next year. Was there problems with the bathrooms? I don't know. I know I ended up plunging the men's restroom in the morning time like 3 times because there was no one to fix it. Like, here I am, the guy that puts the event together. I'm trying to help Barkley prep the track, and I'm plunging the toilets. I mean, there was no job beneath me.
Dude,
right?
that's so funny. My boy goes in there. As soon as we showed up, he goes in there and he goes, "Daddy, it's stuck. It doesn't go down." I was like, "Well, come on over here and use this one over here." That's funny.
I plunged it the first time there was somebody in the other stall, and I said, "You guys got to lay off the cheese."
It's terrible.
Oh, let's see here. JB's Little Shop saying, Dallas, after all this calms down, get with me and we can get this bike back to you, sir. Oh, all right, no problem, man. I will actually get with you. I have one event this weekend. I have literally just made it home. I unpacked everything yesterday because I got home Monday evening. Is that right? What is it, Wednesday? I got home Monday evening, and then I unpacked everything all day Tuesday and was working on memberships first thing this morning, and then worked on the printer to work on the memberships all the rest of the day. So, yeah, it's been kind of hectic, but I'll get with you, JB. I still got your number. Wendy says she had a great time at the Inn and meeting everyone that was there.
Yeah.
It was a good time. That's what it was all about. And I think everybody had a great time meeting everyone.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, see, Fab Race Mon Repeat says, a Kingser has saved many a block. Oh, and hey, as an FYI, Shane, Fab Race Mon Repeat, which is Chris Cox, is going to send you an email about a camshaft profile he wants you to look at.
Okay, sure. Is he going to send it? Which email?
He doesn't want you putting it on the air. He doesn't want talking about Tech Talk Live.
That's fine. But which email was he going to send it to?
I can have him send it to either one. You want it to go to Slant Daily Garage?
Yeah, send Slant Daily, or you can go to my email at work. It doesn't matter. Either one.
Just try the Slant Daily Garage at, what is it, Gmail?
Yahoo. Slant Daily Garage at yahoo.com. Send it over.
Oh,
there.
Really? At Yahoo?
Yeah.
I think you sent me Gmail. And I have Slant Daily at Gmail. I always send it to that.
No, it's Yahoo. I'm looking at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Jonathan Couchy says, hello, Dallas and Slant Daily. I just started overtime season for I Strange. I'm not sure what that means. Now until December, 60 hours total a week, paid by the hour, so everything comes to a halt project-wise. Yeah, but you know what, buddy? When it finally slows down, you're going to have a pile of dough to work on that project with. That's what I always liked about overtime. I never turned it down.
Right?
Yeah. Riley's Rebuild says, hey, guys, driving home from soccer, I got my first real hot rod, 66 Fairlane. It has a 390 FE and a C6. Can I take it to Drag Week next year? Do I need to do 12 seconds? I'll tell you what, Riley, you already got a YouTube channel. You could bring it to No Name Nationals next year if you wanted.
Riley, I went 16-8, and I was at Drag Week. I'm telling you right now, you can go there with whatever you want. They're going to make a little fun of you on the air, but you can go.
They're not going to make fun of you at all. I had one of those cars. I had a 66 Mercury Cyclone in bone stock. That sucker ran 1360s in the quarter.
Oh, then you're fine. Yeah, but they made fun of me because I was running 16 seconds. So.
But you had a Slant. They should all understood it.
Yeah, they still made fun of me. The first day, but whatever.
Kevin here wants to know, is a Dana 44 twin traction axle with 373 is a good unit? It's in a 63 Lark with a nice 421 cubic inch small block Chevy and Power Glide. Do I need a 9-inch Ford?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, that Dana's going to gack first time you put a set of slicks on it. That's right. A lot of cubic inches to be feeding that thing. You got to remember that Lark came with like what, a 304? Is that what was that? Is that what they had?
That was a 289, not a Ford 289, but it was a 289 Studebaker 289. In fact, I'm going to be working on one of those with the neighbor down the street's got one. He's got a 63 Lark, and it's it's like in mint condition, so it looks cool.
I like this comment. Danny Boyd says, my cars all look like sleepers, but they're slow.
So they're technically sleeping all the time.
Yes. What was funny is, did you see at No Name National, Stephen Holtz, that has the Just Drive It channel? He gave out to the guys that had like the slowest reaction time, gave them a bag of coffee to wake up. It was funny. The slowest cars out there, he gave them a bag of coffee. Yeah, let's see. John Wilbur saying, Riley Rebuilds, you need to participate in No Name Nationals in 2023.
Absolutely.
I think you do.
Right?
I think it's time to bring that Fairlane up and give it a workout. Bring some of your carburetors and sell them, or rebuild some other carburetors while you're there
at the track to show them.
That would be ideal if you did a live carb rebuild at the No Name Nationals. That would put you over the top right there.
Or do it like this. One car, like guy shows up the car they just pulled out, the No Name Nationals car, right? He gets there, car's destroyed. You rebuild the car, he goes out and runs faster. Sell a ton.
I tell you what would work out great. Okay, Riley, you come there with your idea of rebuilding carbs. I just so happen to know somebody at Edelbrock Corporation that makes those carburetors. They could probably put a carburetor rebuild contest or something of that nature on within the short, like we rebuild the carburetor as fast as possible, stick it on the car or on an engine on a start stand and see if it runs. Right. You know, and that would be a pretty cool contest.
That would be cool.
Let's see. Oh, Colleen says, so the restrooms thing was a really long walk from the other end of the pits. That it was. It really was. And then maybe you have a valid point there. There should be something out the far end of the pits.
At least by where the tech was, you know, where you got teched in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, kind of in that area right there by where Deke was.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you guys didn't get a chance to meet Deke, I think everybody had somewhat for tech. That dude is probably one of the coolest Mopar guys I know. He is
ever.
laid back.
Yeah, ever. He's cool. Me and him were bullshitting for a while. He's a good guy.
And he's very knowledgeable. He's been doing this hot rodding stuff since he was a teenager in like the early 70s. So he's the real deal.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Jason's Garage popped in. Let's see here. Danny Boyd's asking, what the hell is up with Slaghammer? I do not know. Maybe Mopar Al's in here. I know that there's a bunch of gas in the oil.
Well, I mean, I went over there a couple times to take a look at it. I was talking to them about the converter and a few things, but they were having the back float stuck. It was actually leaking. I'm not sure if it's stuck open or whatnot. I don't quote me on that, but I know that the back float bowl was leaking. They changed that out, and I do know that he did change the oil before they left. So whatever was in that was just from that event. I do know that for a fact. So.
And it didn't really go anywhere. It only made a few passes because it had so many issues with getting the thing to run right. It just did not like. There was something up with that combo. It did not like. It was either the carburetors were screwed up, or like Tony was saying, maybe the timing and the carburetors were screwed up. That'll gas it down too, because it's you're dumping an inordinate amount of fuel in an inefficient engine, right?
Right.
When it's running correctly, it's okay, but when it's run way off, oh man. Let's see here. Riley's saying whoop whoop. I'm hoping that means that she's going to be there. John Wilburn saying Colleen and I stayed really dehydrated and didn't eat all day. Yeah, I was the same way. I have blisters on my lips from my lips being sunburned, and then I think I peed one time on Friday. It came out like mustard. So I just went back to the pits and I added some beer to my body. It probably got worse from that point forward. Yeah. Let's see. The sad part was the weather was gorgeous, but it was the sun and the wind combined.
Yeah, dried out.
Took a lot of moisture out of you, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm used to that. In fact, to me, it was like heaven, because it's like I'm so out here it's so humid. I'm built for that weather. So like to me, dry with a little bit of heat, I was golden. It was great.
Well, excuse me. Don English says my phone says it logged 35,000 steps last weekend. So I'm sure everybody walked that same amount or more, right? I mean, you would assume that it'd be relatively close because everybody was literally going from pit to pit, to channel, and meet all of the people that they normally see on YouTube face to face, right? The ones that were, to me, were exactly the same that I expected them to be, kind of like a front, or different in person, was Ryan Wing. Ryan Wing from Streetcar Chronicles is exactly how he is on the videos. He's such a cool dude. Let's see, Chad from Square Body Stuff. He was kind of the same way too. I kind of expected him to be, this is somewhat of his affront, but he's very intelligent dude. That's like, he just likes to have fun with the square body trucks. But let's see. Jonathan Couchy asked, should I put a 6.4 Hemi in my 87 drag truck?
Yes.
Or get an RT Charger Hemi?
No.
Currently drive a 2002 Subaru Forester, but just had to do the brake lines.
Go with the 6.4. 100%. The RT Chargers usually get like the 5.7s, but the 6.4 has got such a better block, such a better head. It's just a better engine all the way around. Just go with the 6.4.
So K Nelson saying, who won the monkey drag? He's talking about the monkey bike. That would be Torque Racing Productions Nolan. That dude was on it all weekend. I mean, he wasn't the greatest at everything, but that's how you win the No Name Nationals, is you have to go into each individual. You try to do as many events as possible and then do fair in all those events, right?
Yeah.
And he did fair in the bracket race. He did a pretty good burnout, the burnout competition. He won the monkey bike. And, I mean, that set him up for, nailing the trophy, which is a big one. I don't remember if they were in the 28-10-5 or not, but I think they probably were. I mean, he wasn't messing around. He gave that car was a road race car that he literally gave 0 Fs about. I mean, that thing in the burnout competition, if you haven't seen the video, was bouncing off the rev limiter the entire time at like 4,500, $5,000, whatever, when you over rev on the stock computer and it starts shutting it down. It probably was closer to 6, but it was just bouncing off the rev limiter for what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes? And it was nuts.
That's awesome.
Let's see. Danny Boyd says, weren't those older? I don't know anything about Slaghammer, and I'm not going to speculate.
I watched the video that he posted. He did put new rings in it, is what he said.
Well, Chris Cox has been messaging me all day about it. He thinks that maybe the fuel pump diaphragm is leaking. And Tony messaged me a little while ago, and he says, no, the fuel pump is perfect. So, let's see. Danny Boyd says beer will dehydrate you. Yes, I know. That's why I was being sarcastic when I was saying I poured beer down my throat, try to fix that mustard pee. So, Wendy English says her lip got tore up too. See, I got it too. I got blisters all along my lip, and then they're split, cracked from I think it's from the sun and the wind.
I have that desert rat version of me in here, and nothing ever bothers me.
Well, it's you're born and raised in SoCal, man. I mean, it's like literally 9,000% or negative 9,000% humidity out there.
That's right.
And then it's 40 degrees when you wake up every morning, and it's 95 by noon.
Yeah. So that, to me, these past few weeks, it's just been heaven. So yeah.
Let's see. What engines is the Gen 3 Hemi swap forward at the No Name Nationals? He's talking about that Mr. Hemi, right? Cope Racing Transmissions truck.
Oh, I think it was a 5.7. I think it was a 5.7. I don't know. I talked to him just a little bit. John Cope. He told me, and I just can't remember. I'm not sure.
So Kevin's asking, have you heard of Slick Street stuff in Knoxville? They make a suspension kit with rack and pinion for Studebaker stuff. Was going to go for it, but the website vanished. Okay, don't be surprised that they vanished. Right now is kind of like what you're looking at at the moment is kind of like a miniature version of 2008, 9, and 10. And the small manufacturer is going to be disappearing, and some of the larger manufacturers are going to start getting bought out. And it's just what's going to happen. It's dog eat dog, and it doesn't let up when the economy takes a dump, right? So I think that's what you're going to start seeing. But I have never heard of them. If it was me, if it's all right, I don't put anything like that into a car that never had it. I don't waste my time on it. And it's not saying that it's a waste of time for you. I'm just saying I don't waste my time on it because to me, I really don't care what kind of steering's in it. I'm going to drive it kind of accordingly. I'm not. Rack and pinion is something that works great for like autocross or stuff like that. Or if you're going to drive it every day, it'd probably be a nice thing to have if you're going to drive every day.
Yep.
But I don't do that. I normally don't do that for older stuff. My Suburban's about the only thing I drive every day, and that's because you can find square body parts in your neighbor's trash. So
yeah, well, when we're 100% at Olive Branch with Edelbrock, I'll be driving my Dart every day, and I did the stock suspension's just fine, and steering, just like you said, I drive it accordingly to what it can do.
Yeah, don't go diving into corners, at Mach 3. But that's what I actually kind of like about older cars. They sacrifice the cornering and all that stuff for ride, and they ride nice. They ride so nice compared to new cars that are bumpity, boxity, and clunkety, and you go over a speed bump, it. One of them cars, you heard something. Yeah,
right.
It's like driving your couch, right?
Right.
Let's see. John Wilburn says Roland was a worthy winner. Very, very close between him, Big Block 402, and Bad Tree Productions. Yeah, I think numbers wise, it was literally like the thinnest of margins, but Roland was obviously the clear cut winner in the whole thing. But it could have easily went any other way had it been a different round of bracket action or a different outcome from the burnout competition. It would have been probably completely different.
Yeah.
But it was obvious that Roland nailed it. And I mean, that's what sucks about those things is when it's points based, you personally are invested as well, and you want to see someone win. that you have in mind. And I tried to stay unbiased. And Shane even saw that. I completely stayed unbiased with the whole thing. There was a 3-way tie for junior judges competition, right? Junior judges award. So I went down the pits, and I know Shane and his kids, or Shane's kids, hadn't voted that day because they didn't get the purple ballot slip in the morning, right? Because they came in first thing on Saturday morning, and the purple ballots were handed out on Friday. And I grabbed his kids and I said, "Come on, we're going to go look at some cars." And Shane, I said, "Hey, Shane, tag along with me so I'm not creeping on him, like so you don't think something's going down here." Because I'm just like, "Hey, come with me, kiddos," and pulling candy out of my pockets and
Here's
stuff.
some free candy.
But we went and looked at all the cars that had been voted for in the junior judges competition. And then when we got done, we turned and walked away, and we got about halfway through the pits. And I said, "So which one did you like?" And two of them were like, "Oh, I really like, Jeremy's, what is it called? The crew cab dart," right? And then my boy was like, "I like the red one," right? And I'm like, "Okay," and which was Dr. Art, to tell you the truth, Dr. Art's Ranger. And that outweighed the whole thing. Two of the kids saying they like the crew cab dart. And so I didn't tell them what it was for. They had no idea what they were doing. I just wanted to know which car they liked the most. And that sealed it for me, and Jeremy was the winner, right? So let's see what else we got here for. John says Dallas and I were weather beaten before the event even started. Yeah, I think John's lips were bleeding the morning of Friday. Right? We had worked outside for 2 or 3 days straight at that point, because we got there Tuesday, right? We got there on Tuesday and worked Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday was the event. And I was just, to tell you the truth, it went by so fast. I was actually happy to see it end because I was just so worn out.
Burnt out, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't hardly walk, if you noticed, every day at the end of the day. And I want to say maybe Saturday was the worst, because I walked so much I galled my thighs, and it hurt so bad just to walk. But let's see, anything new? Oh, so Andy says Mr. Haney is a 392 bone stock
6.4. That's
and
the
it
way to
runs
go.
good.
Yeah, that's all you need. I'm telling you, a 6.4 makes 500 horsepower, stock, tuned correctly. You put a camshaft in it, makes 600. I know we've done it 50 times on the dyno. So they're a kick-ass engine.
Let's see. Fab Race Mod repeats saying, "I love the manual fast ratio box in my 69 Mercury." I like those older boxes. They have a lot of feel to them, so you got a lot of feedback through the wheel, right? Especially if it's a manual box. The manual boxes have such a good feeling, just essentially compared to today's cars. Oh my gosh, with electric power steering, it's like it. I remember the first time I drove one of those was a Dodge Ram with that electric power steering, and you can't feel anything. It's just like it's almost
boxing
like
gloves.
Right. Well, I mean, it kind of relates to, if you ever played a video game with the steering wheel. That's kind of what it equates to, because it has no feeling.
Yes, I don't like it.
Yeah. Let's see. Dr. Art says he should have entered the 10-5 shootout and actually could have made it pretty far. Yes, you could have. That's what we were telling everybody. There was only a few hammers out there, and all you had to do was really mess with those guys and make them red light, right?
Yeah.
I would have went up there I would have been dumb, just play dumb. Go up there with a dial in on my car. It says like 540. And they're going to be like, "Oh, crap, this guy runs a 540. I need to really hammer the tree on this one because I'm only running, 570s or 580s. So go up there and push them to a red light, and just mess with them. And of course, your car doesn't run a 540. It runs 1060s in the 8th mile. But they don't know that. It's 10-5 world. You got to play with them. You got to think about how these games work.
Or put Pro Tree on your window,
Yeah. Well, you can't run a Pro Tree. This is an instant green.
Right?
No. What? Let's see here. Jonathan Couchy says, heard an engineer on a video say that they could get way better fuel economy, like 100 miles per gallon non-hybrid, but emissions would higher with our current tech. What type of communist plot is this? Okay, I'll tell you what it is. You probably had a taste of it back in about, I don't know, 2012, 13, 14, and 15. It was called Dieselgate. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They were going after these diesels for the emissions output when they're getting 50 something miles to the gallon.
Yep.
All right. The car's rated at 40 or 35. Is the emissions that much higher, even though it's using 20% or 40% better fuel, or like it's getting that much better fuel economy? The emissions, you got to think it's still making power. So the emissions can't be much worse because it's using so much less fuel. How does it have a higher emissions content but still make all that power?
Particulates.
So, yeah, it's. I think what it is a means to control the fuel price, right? So, and if you haven't noticed, go look at a 3/4 ton truck. That's where you get the best indicator. My 3/4 ton Ford that I drive all over the country and do all these events with, it gets about anywhere from 15 to 19. Go look what the average fuel economy is on one of those today. 15 to 19.
That's correct.
Yeah. So you're going to tell me that all this crazy technology and all this extra money that you're spending hasn't netted any better fuel economy? Nope. I'm not going to say that because I know for a fact that's not the case.
Yeah.
Fords way back when had overdrives in like the late 40s, early 50s, right? They would get 29, 30 miles to the gallon. So that's Flathead.
And also too, on my truck, I have an 04 diesel, and mine is, I'm getting about 20 to 22 diesel at 70. If I go over 75, it really goes down. But I towed to St. Louis, and towing my 24-foot enclosed trailer with my Dart in it, I got 19 miles to the gallon. And there's nothing emissions on my truck. Nothing, because it's just the way it came. It's an 04, so there's nothing on it. So, and the new trucks, the new 3/4 tons, don't even come close to that.
No, especially the diesels when they started
That's right.
deffing them all up and
polluting
them all out. You're looking at, I don't know, the diesels are almost to the point where they're on par towing with gas.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
then you're just paying more at the pump.
Yep,
I think they're doing that honestly to drive you towards having a gas vehicle.
That's
but
right.
Also, the whole purpose is to drive the cost of goods up because everything's trucked.
That's right.
Okay. Well, Miss Pulido, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I wanted them to feel like they were part of something.
And before you click off of this one, it was funny because what was the winning car, and what did it look like? You should tell that real quick.
It was a green 4-door Dart, very similar to the one Shane drives.
And I didn't know what was going on. We just kind of looked around, and I figured it out by the time we got to the third one. I was like, oh yeah, they're judging. But I stayed back and I didn't say nothing. And then when they said we like the green one, and I was just like, oh, okay, yeah. And then afterwards I figured it out, and I was just like, I started laughing. I was like, well, that was unbiased.
Yeah. Let's see. Rob's Rods and Streetcars asks, what mufflers do you like to run on your hot rods? Man, the older I get, the more I like to have them quiet.
Yeah. The cutouts. Yeah.
You're doing the same thing?
Yeah. I'm running 2 mufflers on mine. I'm actually running it's a Holly something or other. I forget the name of it. It's a straight through muffler. I forget what it's a Flow Max or Flow, whatever it's called. But then I run a resonator at the tip, and that way we can talk inside the car. I want it quiet. I was trying to get, the whole point of it is I was doing my like different first and second order wavelengths on the car. So I was trying to get the harmonics down. So that way the drone, because I drive that thing between 70 and 80. I want it so that way when you're going that speed, you can talk, and it's nice inside there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I like it. I did the hot rod stuff where it's like, man, I'm going to get 2-chamber Flowmaster 40 series and I'm going to drive it around. Well,
right.
At like, let's say 50 miles an hour, it would get a drone so bad inside the car. There was no point in having a radio. You couldn't listen to it, right?
You couldn't have no passengers.
You couldn't talk to anyone inside the car. And this is when cell phones were like fairly new. So it's like, you couldn't even hear it ring. mean, that's how
No.
bad it was.
Yeah,
And
I'm literally tone deaf at a certain point because of that. I used to drive it all the way. I had 40 series 2-chamber Flowmasters on my Dart that when it was red, and I would drive that to LA from San Diego like that, and I'm deaf from that thing.
yeah. Well, Danny Boyd says newer trucks way more. No, no, they're about the same. The Fords are probably a little lighter, to be honest with you, because they got aluminum body and cab and
Yeah,
stuff on them.
yeah,
Maybe they put more meat in the chassis, but I know mass production wise and cost outcome, that makes no sense. If you're going to put an aluminum body on, which actually costs more to make,
right.
right? You're going to cut corners somewhere else.
That's right.
Let's see. Don English is talking about, yeah, you got a minivan, Don. Of course, you got great mileage.
Right.
Yeah. Jonathan Couchy says his brother's Slant D150 gets mid-20s. The Slants are notorious for decent mileage. That was the whole trade-off.
Yeah,
right?
they're basically gas-powered diesel, long strokes, small bore, long, low RPM. In fact, I just drove to TCI today out in Ashland. So I did on the way back, I did my very last fill up. So now I have all of drag week. I have the drive to the no names and the drive back. So that way I'm going to calculate my miles per gallon for drag week and going to no names. So it's looking good right now. I'm telling you, it's going to be in the mid 20s also.
Clayton, I will do that. I'll put the Thunderbird on the channel here soon. I need to get these Buick projects kind of cranked out, but apparently Shane wants to call me out for next year's No Name Nationals. Are we gonna do? It's not 28-10. We're doing 26 8.5-inch Outlaw shootout.
You want to do 26 diameter?
Yeah, that's what the tire is. 26 by 8.5. Or do you want to do a 28 by 8.5?
Doesn't matter to me. My gear set up for 28, but I'll do 26. It won't make any difference really.
Oh, it will, because see, I made the one pass at Verona, and the dude came running up to my trailer. He said, "Man, that had to be scary. I almost shit my pants." Right, and I'm like, "That was pretty scary," because that thing was all over the place. It's not meant for that little tire and all that torque, right? It'd been different if I had a glide. If I had a glide, it would have just kind of eased out of the hole and never really overpowered it till it got to like about 6,500 first. So maybe the 330-foot mark, you would have been looking for something.
Well, I've got a 456, a 430, and a 411 gear. So I'll just try out which one works the best.
I got 390. And so it likes to throw them tires around pretty quick.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't have any other gear sets I'm going to put in. I'm just going to get it done however I can get it done.
Yeah.
So I guess I might soak them in traction compound for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Who knows? Let's see. Mopars, Mustangs, and minivans. These closed chamber heads should be okay to use on the Magnum. Yeah, I'll be porting them this time.
As long as they're Magnum heads, because this block doesn't have any provisions for the holes. So as long as they oil up through the push rods, it'll be fine. Yeah, as long as it's a Magnum head. But, you really don't need to port them much. I have a recipe I'm going to give you that I used to build a lot of Mopars. And with the I forget who is Engine Quest used to make a CH318 head. And on a 360, I could get 450 horsepower out of it, out of a 318. I think it was like 420. But it's the same setup. I have all the cam specs. Yeah, that's the only difference is cube. That's it.
That's funny because you would think that the bore diameter being that much smaller would affect airflow, but it doesn't sound like it does at all.
No, because it's a 318 head, designed for that. So so it actually helps it out on 360 because it's a high velocity head. So it just gives it. There's no shrouding of the valve, so it actually makes a better thing. So yeah, and that's why there was such a disparity. That's why it made like 30 more horsepower. Just because of the cubic inches and because of the enshrouding of the valve, but basically the exact same setup. So I'll get you a recipe when you show down here. I'll hand it to you, and it's got all the part numbers that you need to buy and everything.
Well, man, they're really starting to pile in now. There's a lot of people. This is like a No Name Nationals reunion in here already.
Right.
Mustangs and minivans. And what is the biggest cam I can use on stock 318 springs before valve float? That's a Magnum short block, you said, though, right?
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, mine's a short block.
Roller in that?
Yeah, it's a hydraulic roller. So we're going to put a hydraulic roller in it, and you're not going to want to use stock springs at all because it's not necessarily it's it's not the cam, it's the profile of the cam. It's ramp rates is what it comes down to. It's how fast you're opening it and how fast you're closing it, and seat pressure, because it's what it's going to do is it's going to bounce. And and on our spintrons, we've noticed that the camshaft, let's just say you have 230 degrees of duration at 50. As you get closer to that bounce, that thing is actually going to get smaller and smaller and smaller before it even starts bouncing. So if it's 230, it's going to be probably like 225, and then as it starts to bounce, it'll be like in the 210 range. So it gets progressively smaller, and that's from the springs not being able to control it. I mean, there's many different factors, but yeah.
What are you going to use the engine for? That's the major factor. I mean, if it was something that was performance oriented, I don't know if I would probably do a hydraulic roller, and then I would have Shane's giving you an engine. Let's see if Shane can design you a camshaft to work with those cylinders.
We're going to, yeah. Basically, I'm going to give him the short block. Then I told him already, get the best heads that you can get, and we'll build everything else around that. That's what I told him right off the bat. Just get the best heads you can afford, and then build everything around that, because it's just an air pump.
Yep. And Shane and I both agree on that. If it's something, if it's not a race only piece, if it's something that's hot street, you buy even if it's race only, you buy the best heads you can buy, and then you build everything to support what those heads are going to make it happen.
Exactly.
Right? So, including that's where you need a full race pieces. It's like rods, pistons, rings, stuff like that. When you're talking street stuff, you can get away with so much with a factory bottom end motor.
Yeah,
so much. Hey, so Austin's saying wanted to come here and apologize for the faux pas of having my premiere at the same time as your live. Hey, well, you know what, Austin, it doesn't seem to affect us much at all. I don't know if you can see this number up here. There's 68 viewers right now. We were up to like 75, so I don't think it's impacted us much at all. I was assuming, since all these premieres were going down literally like in succession, and it was all on top of my live, I was like, oh man, there goes my live, man, it's gonna be pooped out today. And to the contrary, it's not. Look at this number up here, 70.
Well, so I was telling a lot of people that, it's like they came over and asking about the slant, and I was just telling them, I was like, if you got any questions, you can't think of them right now. I said, we do it live. Go to American Hot Rod Association. You got to spell it all out. And we do it live Tech Talk Wednesday nights. I said, we haven't done it in 2 weeks. I haven't been there in 2 weeks. I said, so we'll be there. Bring it up.
Sweet. Well, Terrence Seymour says, late to the party. It's been cool following along with you on the Dart, Shane.
Oh, no problem.
There you go. Terrence is a big fan.
Awesome. Yeah, I had a lot of people come by, and they were like, man, I've been following you all through Drag Week. It was awesome. I was like, that's sweet, man. It's awesome.
Uh-oh. Mostly Old Parts and Russ is wanting to get in on our 318 turbos, okay, in the 28, 8.5. I'd say yes. I would go out on a limb and say yes, because we got the tires, the one that's dictating the whole thing, right?
I guess, yeah, because the turbo, those you can come in down the road. See, the whole thing is the hit. See, 28.85, you're going to come in on a hit. You're going to have to take away some of the hit and then roll into the power, and that's what turbos are really good. I don't know, whatever. I don't care. I'm just there for fun.
I think it's all for fun, right? So
yeah, I
think if we could keep it, let's say if you're going to be turbocharged, it's got to be less 350 cubes or less, right?
Yeah. What's a 5.3? 5.3?
325.
We can make 1,000
cubes or less.
Yeah, whatever. I'm down.
300 Buick in mine then with a turbo on it.
Yeah, there you go. Right. I don't know. We come up with something, but yeah, that 28.85, man, that's gonna be fun. I'm excited about that.
I think that's gonna be interesting. I don't know. That's something I'll talk to John about, but I think there's enough room there. We can get some guys in on that thing.
Yeah, because that'll level the playing field to everyone. Because if the tire dictates it, that's everything.
Let's see. Jonathan Couchy says EQ still makes that head $750 a pair, real cheap for an aftermarket head or head bearer. So that's not a bad deal, especially if they take stock valves, because you can literally take your heads off, take the valves out, and then have the machine work done to support. Or if they've already been, generally when they're bare, they got brand new seats in them. Yeah. So you have to have the seats cut to fit those. So you have to go to the machine shop, but then you can use your stock valves.
Well, also too, I do work for Edelbrock, so we can see what we can do for a set of heads, RPM heads, because I do have a recipe for a 360 and a 318 Magnum with the RPM heads, and the 360 made 467, I believe, and the 318 made another 10 horsepower. So it was, because it was the same camshaft, it was basically the exact same head. So I think it was 330 or 335 horsepower. So I mean, I'm sorry, 435. Sorry, 435 horsepower, and that's good, and that was all over by 62 or 6400 RPM. So it was great. It's good. It's a good setup.
Oh, well, let's see. Austin says, I just had people criticizing me for it. Blake had put his up at saying that he was going to premiere, and I said, hey, man, thanks. I guess our Wednesday live is a waste. But I expected the number to be a lot less than what it was, because everybody's going to be at all these premieres, right? That's kind of what I was expecting. And see here, saying, sorry, Dallas. Hey, man, no big deal. It happens. It happens. You know,
Yeah.
I try not to poop on you guys' stuff. So, and I know you weren't pooping on mine. You were just excited to get your material up. I know that for a fact. And I know why too, because it was a lot of fun this weekend. It really was. So I don't blame you at all. Doug Narden says, I found a Dodge truck Dana 60 with a sure grip with 354 gears. Is $600 a fair price for it? You're damn right that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yep.
As long as, now wait a second, as long as it's not the 8-lug with the floating axle, make sure that's an actual like 5-on-4.5 bolt pattern. Just make sure that first.
Oh, I was assuming it was an 8-lug. Can't you just cut the axle ends off and then weld on some regular Dana 60 axle ends?
Yeah, you can, but they did sell some of the trucks that came with the Dana 60 on them that didn't have to. You don't have to do all that stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't.
Those are the magic ones to get.
Let's see here. Let's see. Scale modeling on the cheap says, picking through all the videos looked like an amazing time. Great cars, better people, AHRA rules. Felt like an old school Wednesday. Well, I tell you what, that event, I didn't hear any bad things about it at all. Everybody was like, everyone is so much like their YouTube channel. I just had a good time talking with them. And then, you know what? The only time I ever caught any flack the whole weekend was one guy was trying to talk to me, and I'm like, I think we had an oil down on the track, and I was trying to clean the oil up because we couldn't run until the oil was cleaned up. And this dude's following me around, talking to me. And I said, look, man, I got to go. I got to get the track cleaned up. And, oh, you don't have time for your biggest fan? And I'm like, oh, and that's one thing I guess I should probably address. I didn't know this guy from Adam, just because you see my face on YouTube doesn't mean that I can see yours, right? So please don't assume that I know who you are.
That happened to me many times. I'm like, man,
I was like weirded out by like, I don't know who you are, man. I'm sorry. I don't want to burst your bubble, but I've never seen you before in my life.
Yeah. So, I was really nice to everyone, but they're like, hey, Shane, this and that. And I was just like, I said, man, I'm really terrible with names. I'm sorry, man. Oh, yeah.
Let's see. CS Performance says, if a nitrous 5.3 combo will be allowed in the 8.5-inch class, I would definitely be interested in it. You know what? Shane and I will talk it over and come up with some basic rules, because this is already starting to get like everybody's wanting in on it, right? Yeah. And I don't blame you. It's fun. I'm telling you right now, though, the way we did it in Southern California, it was a NA 10.5 class. And what we're trying to do is dumb it down to allow more cars in with different stuff, so you can have a smaller tire, and you get the tire's the dictating part, right?
Yep.
You could have a zillion horsepower, but you got to get it all done in that little 8.5-inch tire.
That's right.
And it takes a set of cojones to drive something like that on the ragged edge. It really does. Now, if you were to take that 5.3 and put a glide behind it and like a 308 gear and then 110 VP on it, you're probably going to whack everybody in the class, to be honest with you, because the thing will get out of the hole and it'll pull like a freight train from about the 60 foot on. And if you can keep it from detonating and pushing head gaskets out, you're probably going to clean everybody's clock.
Come on, don't give them ideas.
Well, I mean, your car and my car is literally set up the same kind of combo. We were running NA 10.5 is really what we're kind of set up for.
Yeah.
And you got
we're low six cars.
Yeah, with a big cubic inch small block and a lightweight car.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to have their work cut out for them, because we're going to be in that I'm 6/16s, 6/0s.
I think, yeah, 6 O's is probably the number where it would kind of fall.
Mm-hmm.
That's if we can get down the track on that little greasy 8.5-inch tire.
Oh, I'll be fine. I got things. You'll be
Well,
fine too, man, because you got the
I'm
gear.
telling you, man, that thing scared me to death. I'm going to have to change a gear.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to change the gear.
Just load the converter more, you know?
Well, I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a dog off the line. Well, that's fine. I can live with that because that's what it needs.
That's right.
Let's see. What kind of power could I get with Chevy 882 heads? I'm
Not very
sorry.
good.
I'm not a Chevrolet guy. I don't know what an 882 is. If that's a turbo fire head,
No, the 882 is kind of like a smog dog head. They're okay. I used to build a lot of Chevy engines, and the 882s are just they're super common head. I think they were like number 10 on the top 10 list, or I forget, there was some number list, whatever. You're gonna have to do some work to them, but by the time you do all that stuff to them, just it's some aftermarket head, or just on what's that, Yellow Bullet or whatever the hell what's that Racer's Junk. That's what it is. Go to Racer's Junk and buy someone's used heads. You'll be so much farther ahead. 882 heads would just by the time you put the stuff into them, it's just they're not the greatest.
right? Well, you could literally go buy a set of Vortex that would outflow that head.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So
Light years better. Yeah.
yeah. And that's probably the minimum where I would start. But let's just say you have those heads now, and your budget is $100. Okay. If you wanted to get the most power for $100 out of that set of heads, a lot of people would be like, "Oh, porting." No, I'm going to tell you right now, porting is not the deal, right? Go get some good valves. Get some back cut stainless steel swirl polish valves. It'll be worth every dime that you spend on that set of heads.
Yeah. That's funny you say that, because that's what I tell people. They're like, "What'd you do to the heads?" Is like, literally, I took the stock valves out, I back cut them, I cleaned up the bowl and put it back together, and I gained 20 CFM. I could spend another $1,000 and get another 10 CFM out of the Slant 6 head, but it's just not worth it.
Well,
Just a good valve job.
Just so the regular person here knows, 20 CFM equates to about 40 horsepower.
That's big, especially on an engine that makes like 140 horse. You're going to be close to 200 by the time you play with camshaft, exhaust, pulse, all that stuff, and you can tune your camshaft in to make everything talk to each other. You're at 200 horse right there. Boom, you're good.
So Man Goes Broke says, "Why does Uncle Tony never come on anymore?" Because there was a small group of guys that literally bullied him off of the lives. Okay, that's why he doesn't do lives anymore. Well, he's just started recently doing Sunday night lives again, I think. But he got bullied off of doing lives, really is what happened. And I think it's BS, especially by the people that were within the community, right? That's where it hurts the most. That's why I'm sure, I think Tony did the right thing, to be honest with you. I just don't like how it was handled.
Yeah. I found out about it that day. I was
me too, right?
Like, yeah.
So, well, let's see here.
Go down to E, 3 down from that one.
Did you see this one? Mostly Old Parts and Rust says the only complaint I've heard, it was only 2 days.
Right.
Well, so I'm assuming next year needs to be 3 days of no-name nationals.
Yeah. Well,
dude, I don't know if my body could withstand that. You guys might call an ambulance somewhere around in there about day 3 on me.
And next time I'm definitely going to be there for the Friday. Yeah. Go to back to Dan E. Boyd. He asked 5 lug Dana 60s. Yes, the Ford trucks came with 5 lug Dana 60s
when they 100%. Didn't have a 9-inch, so they were like a camper special.
Yeah, there was I got those exactly, and then I did see him in a lot of there was a few Dodge trucks when I used to go down to the pick your part.
There's also Chevy square bodies that came with that Dana 60 in the front.
Yes. Yeah, that was in the front, but but as far as for the rear, I started seeing them in the Ford trucks. Remember when they used to bring in the campers and they would take the box off and it was just like a chassis, in the back section,
right? Yeah. Cabin chassis trucks.
Yes, that's where I saw a lot of these 60s that were 5 lug on the Fords and the Dodges, because they had the same 5 on 4.5 lug pattern. At the time, I just didn't want a Dana 60. I wanted an 8 3/4 because I just didn't want all this weight for an A body. So Yes, I did see a lot of them that were the 5-lug Data 60s.
Hook, line, and fishing. Hello, Dallas. Did you get your magazine? You know, that's the first thing Shane told me when I called him the other day. He said, "Hey, dude, don't get upset. I looked at it 5 times that day and told myself to give it to you. I forgot that magazine." And I'm like, you know what? I totally forgot you were going to give it to me. So
Dude, he handed that to me. He waited for me. That was at Cordova. I totally remember this. We got, because they had an oil down and another oil down, so we were like in a hurry. I remember running the race, backing in, and he was sitting there waiting for me. And my brother goes, "Hey, that guy's wanting to talk to you." And I was like, "Okay." And so I go there and I talk to him, and he hands me this magazine, and I'm just like, "Dude, bitching, no problem. I'll get it to him. I'll put it in my backpack. It's going to be safe." And then I come here, and it's sitting right here, like sitting. And then I was like, okay, I put it in my backpack and I'm going to take it to Dallas. And then I kept looking at it. And every time I saw you, I was like, oh, I got to give him his magazine. Poof, you were gone. And then I was going to give it to you. And you're like, man, I got to go clean the track. And then you're like, the next time I saw you, you're like, man, I have a new respect for the people who clean up the track. And then the next time I saw you, it's awards time. And I'm just like, dude. And then I literally had it out in my hand 5 times to give it to you, but you were so busy. So
my wife was literally tackling me in the pits, like, "You're going to eat food." And the reason why she's doing it is I'm diabetic, right? So I've been going all day, like not even eating or drinking anything. She just tackled me in the pits. "You're going to eat food." And I don't know if anybody knew this, but at the No Name Nationals, I kind of planned it kind of like we did the Slanted Nationals, where it was a community cookout. And so every night after we finished Friday night, Saturday night, we did a community cookout, especially there in my little pit area. And Ron would cook out. We had sausages and freaking chicken thighs and
pulled pork.
Oh yeah, there was a ton of stuff, grilled corn.
Yeah.
And I encourage you, next year, bring your grill, have a community cookout. It's a lot of fun. Everybody stops by. Usually half of them are sloshed and they're just eating whatever's off your grill. And what's funny is when they're drunk like that and they grab the food, they usually bring them out.
God. It's so good.
So it's a good time. It's a community cookout. It's let's see. Uncle Squirrel says, Richard Holden will be the one to ask about Chevy cylinder heads. I think he has a couple of videos on the 882, 2 or at least one anyway. I'm not a big Chevrolet fan, so I don't know much stuff about them. I kind of go out of my way not to get Chevrolets because they are pricey, right? And
now they are, yeah.
Right. Well, and the sad part is and then why I say that, I'm sure, yes, okay, you can still go buy a cylinder head for a small block Chevy that's $1,000 and it'll outflow anything factory made from Buick or from Chevrolet or whatever. What I mean by that is the Chevrolet car is twice as much as a Buick Olds Pontiac car. Okay. So I can get away with spending twice as much on a motor. I only spent half as much on a car. Mm-hmm. Okay. The other thing is the transmission. Go look for a Turbo 400 for a Chevrolet. $600, $1,000 for just a core tranny. Buick Olds Pontiac, $125 all day long.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of money to be saved if you know how to save it, right?
That's right.
Stick with the stock stuff, the cylinder heads, throw a cam at it, intake, refine the combination that you have. The rest of the stuff will be fairly cheap compared to Chevrolet stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Danny Boyd's saying 2.3 and a 3-speed, 3.4 in a truck, 4-speed and probably 3.4. I don't know what he's talking about there. Okay.
Hey, go back up. There was another one up here. Hook, line, and fishing. 8:06 p.m. He's saying, Shane, what is the easiest way to get 500 or 600 out of a 5.7 Hemi? Okay. The 5.7 Hemi's got two. You got the Eagle and the non-Eagle. If you're going to deal with the early version, it's hard. You're going to have to port the heads. You're going to have to change the heads. You're going to have to do something to it. Don't even go there. If you go with a 5.7, which is going to be the VVT or the Eagle heads, literally that is a cam change. Put a cam in it, and you're going to be right in that 500 to 550 range. They have great flowing heads right out of the box, and then you put a tune on it. Another way to get even better power out of it is you put the 6.4 intake on it. It's got the SRV style or the short valve runner. that turns on and off. So you gain all the torque and then all the horsepower. So it's like having a 6.1 on the top end as far as that intake, but then you have a really nice long runner setup for the low end torque. So to get that, easy cam change, and then get the intake on it and put some headers on it, and you'll be right in that 550 range. Very simple.
All right. So Clayton asks, aside from gears, what are the differences in the way you set up a car for 1/8 mile versus a 1/4 mile? All right. Well, first things first, you have to look at what those gears provide.
That's right.
Right? Because the gear is going to provide quicker acceleration, which means quicker reaction of the car. In the 1/8 mile, it's all made up on the first 60. Matter of fact, when you race somebody in the 1/8 mile, they might have you by 2/10. Okay. If you can take off, if you cut a better tree than them, it will look like they're barely even passing you. Just look out the window and they're just barely passing you. And that's 2/10 worth. Right?
That's right.
And that's because there isn't a lot of ground to make it up. And it's all off the line. It's all acceleration.
Yep.
So when you're talking the gears like that, gear change and a quicker acceleration, you're looking at rear suspension and front suspension. And then you want to look at lesser rolling resistance. You don't have to you're not doing the big mile-an-hour top end like in the 1/4 mile, right? Yep. So there's some things that you can leave on the table. You don't need any aero stuff, zero, because you're not going fast enough to use it, right? And it's not going to provide much, if anything, in the 1/8 mile until you get over, I'd say probably anything over 135, 140 mile an hour in the 1/8 mile is where that starts to really take effect. But suspension, big one. Camshaft and converter are also big players in 1/8 mile racing, right?
Big time. Converter's huge.
Yeah, because you're not in a 1/4 mile situation. You're looking at locking it up at about the 1,000-foot mark. It's not revving any harder, and now it actually, or I mean, I'm sorry. It's normally when you race a 1/4 mile car, you'll launch it. If you got your converter set up properly, you'll launch it. The motor will kind of just hang at a certain RPM. It'll be like, say, 6,700.
Yep.
You'll get all the way through high gear, and you'll get to about the 1,000-foot mark, and then it starts to climb. 68, 69, 7,000, 71, and 72, until, if it's ideally set up, when you cross the stripe is your red line that you had established. Okay. In the 1/8 mile car, it's going to go to like that 6,800, 6,900. It'll be higher than what your 1/4 mile converter would be. And then it's going to hang there because it's going for peak torque. And then you're wanting to use that horsepower about 200 RPM higher. And that way, when it does gear change, it only drops down to like where you're at peak torque again.
Yep.
Right. So that's kind of where the whole thing is going to happen. Am I way off here, Shane? What else is the big one with the camshaft? It's got to have, there's a lot of play in the camshaft, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of play in the camshaft, obviously, because you can give up a little bit on the top end for the 1/4, because 1/8 mile, you're basically just kind of hitting the gears. You're really just, it's hitting it, and you're running, let's say, a 537. I understand you said aside from the gears, but your camshaft plays into a part for the gears, because you're going to need a much longer leg for the 1/4 mile. For the 1/8 mile, you're just going to hit 1, 2, and then you're barely going to be getting to a third, and you're going through the stripe.
Yep. And also what I have noticed is 1/8 mile racing, you don't have to have that gonzo fuel system, because it's never going to pull hard top end, right? Like within high gear.
That's correct.
You can get away with a little bit smaller fuel system.
That's correct. Because it's not just burning the fuel, on the back on the back side. It's just not pouring it in there.
Right. And under heavy load in high gear, right?
Yep.
Let's see. Well, Dizzy Izzy made it in here. He said, best day in a long time. I'm humbled by you all. Well, thanks, Dizzy. You know what? I'm glad you made it, man. I know you worked your butt off the entire time, and it was hard for you, but you got there.
Yeah.
So
Dizzy Izzy, we did a match race, and he was a half a second faster than me. So my trick the whole time was to do a pro tree, but he ended up winning that race.
Well, Ron says here, this is Ron Ward, mostly old parts, if you didn't know that. No Name Nationals was the most unique and incredible event I've ever been part of. Thanks for everything, Dallas. Well, Ron, we couldn't have put it on without you, buddy. No. I mean, like I was telling everyone at the beginning of the video, if you haven't seen that, Ron, I was praising you. you were the one that kind of got everything back when everything went sideways on Friday, when no one showed, when the track personnel didn't show up. You kind of got me back on focus after things were going all over the place. And so, and if you didn't know this, Ron is the one that kind of set the pace for the event. Him and Barkley, they ran the cars when it was necessary. We opened gaps up. We found some time. We moved things around here. And that's because Ron's experience and expertise in the field of doing this a million zillion times. He kind of understands how all this works, which in reality, I do not. I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, that was the first time that, large event like that. I would have to say Ron was a very, very big part of that whole thing. So I'm more than happy to have you aboard next year, to tell you the truth. Ron said, Korean short ribs for the win. Yeah, we were killing it on that freaking that community grill that night. Man, Friday night was probably the best community grill. Let's see. Mid-Made Muscle says, I'm glad I didn't come to the No Name National. I really would have hated on my Dart Block Brodix Head's monster. No, not at all. Nope. Nobody there hated on anybody, really.
Ever.
There was cars there with crazy built motors. There was cars there with Linkos in them. There was cars with homemade stuff on them. It was a myriad. I mean, if you thought duct tape drags had diversity,
no,
this thing was way
super diverse. I've been to all events. I've been to the zip tie, I went to the duct tape, and I've been to this event. This event had the most diverse vehicles because everyone at the duct tape has something that's fast. They're just trying to make it look like it's slow so they can do the 3000, whatever. There was people here that had slow stuff, and there was people that had really fast stuff. And it was just two cars down the track could be going literally in the low sixes. And then you have a car like mine that would be in like a 10.5, like the very next cars. It was good. It was a great event. You could see everything. Slant 6 racing, like V8s, or you had there was that guy who had that inline 6. What was that thing? That was a GM engine with that turbo on it. That was the twin turbo.
That was Calvin Nelson.
That thing was insane. Yeah.
So, but then, you also had Big Mike's Hoopty Barn there. Big Mike's Hoopty was literally a Hoopty, right? He put together for like $0.99. That was his budget. He gave himself no money budget, and he put the car together, and it was pretty beat. It went down the track. I don't know how many times, 4 or 5 times. So
what was that hearse? The hearse too.
Oh, yeah, you had the Pontiac. Irish Outlaw had brought that Pontiac hearse, or it was an ambulance. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was an ambulance.
Yeah. And that thing went down the track. I don't know. It might have timed out. It was pretty slow, right? But it went down the track 3, 4, 5 times.
Yeah.
Nobody was dogging on anybody. Everybody was there just having a good time.
Yeah, it was good.
Made Muscle, not trying to brag. The current motor's taken me 15 years to obtain. Shane and I are in that same boat.
Absolutely.
So put some 8.5s on it. Come out next year, and we're going to meet.
Right. Yeah. The last time we both raced, I think the last time we actually raced was in 2016. That was 16. Right.
That was the last time I raced. Was that the last time that you raced besides the slants?
Yeah, but besides that was the last time I raced that blue car was in 16, because that's when I found I had a crack in the block. Then 17, I was looking for a new block. I found one. I think it was 18. And then I was like, I'm going to get this thing back together. And then right around that time you had moved. And then I really lost kind of interest in it,
Well, Shane and I raced, and that was like the pinnacle. That literally was like the pinnacle of my my time at Verona running the Match Race Madness stuff. Shane and I raced. The next day, my family and I left and went on I had accumulated 90 days of leave in the Navy because all those wars going on, and we kept getting deployed. Because in 2011, 12, 13, 14, and part of 15, I was deployed, right? So my daughter was 5 years old before I even got to see her for her birthday.
Wow.
And I went out to Verona, or I went out to Southern California. It was supposed to be my last tour in the Navy, and I had all these days of leave. And Shane and I did our match race, and I had 90 days of leave, and I dropped 30 days because they said anything over 60, we're going to axe it. You're not going to get leave, or you're going to lose it. So I dropped some 30 days. Actually, I think it was 45 or something. But we drove from Southern California all the way up Route 66 to Chicago, and then jumped on 90. Is it 90, 94? And then we took that back across the Dakotas. We went to Mount Rushmore. We stopped at Wall Drug. We went to Yellowstone on the way home. We made a freaking total thing of it. Yeah. And after that, that match race that Shane and I did. Okay, the cool thing about Match Race Madness was Friday night was the Friday night tune-up.
That's right. Okay? Literally.
Yes. And you'd go out there, you'd get a couple licks on your car, try to get it dialed in for the next day. And then everybody would go out in the pits and get tuned up. Right. And it was one of the sponsors was one of the local breweries in Southern California. And it was all like hardcore craft beer IPA. You only needed about 2 of them and you were tuned up pretty good. Right.
And then Steve would bring out the subs from whatever place that was.
Jersey Mike's.
Jersey Mike's. So you had beer and subs. They would just bring it out. It was great.
Well, my dad had driven from Illinois for that one Shane and I raced in. And my best friend Chris, he drove from North Carolina on his Harley. You remember that when they pulled in?
I do.
And we sat out there in the pits, and my dad was just elated because, see, the guy that ran Match Race Madness was a guy named Steve Sherman. Mm-hmm. His dad was Joe Sherman from Joe Sherman Racing Engines, the Mr. Chevrolet big block, small block racing engines of Southern California.
The guy who invented the 383. That's him.
My dad was just in awe of Joe Sherman being at this track. And then it's like you had Joe Sherman, you had all the guys from the Brotherhood of Street Racing, and like not Big Willie, of course, he was already dead, right? But all the other guys that were like lieutenants in the deal, and my dad starts recognizing all these guys from movies, and oh my God, this place has got to be the greatest place to drag race in the world. And we're out there just drinking beer with all these dudes hanging out, and he thought it was the greatest time ever. And after that, my father passed away March of 17. Okay,
wow.
And I didn't get another match race until I had to race Greg Curtis. Greg Curtis was a heavy hitter in that 10.5 Outlaw, or the 10.5 inch 28 10.5.
Yep.
And he was not one to be taken lightly.
Never.
And I had just got home from my father's funeral, and I tell you what, I went out there to match race the dude, and I left the battery on all night, and I forgot to bring fuel, and it was just like I was so messed up. My head was not in the game, and I took a beating like you'd never seen a beating before. And this dude, I'm not lying. I mean, he was not to mess around with. He was a murderer on the tree, murderer. And I think, I don't know how many of them races I ran. I only ended up losing, I think, one. Sean McBee did me in on my first one there. And that's when I realized how awesome a trans brake was on a pro tree, right? Because Sean's like, tires up, cutting the 60-foot lights with his back tires, and my car hasn't even moved yet. What's rollout?
Yeah.
But,
I lost 3. I lost one to you. I lost the one where I stripped out my input shaft, and then my very first match race was with Sommers, Trey Sommers, and I had a button for a pro tree that was a momentary button, and man, I'm telling you, I got taken to school that day. I just didn't.
That's how I felt. Honestly, if your car had been running right, that's exactly how I felt that thing was going to be, because McBee had done me in pretty good.
Yeah,
and I'm like, all right, Shane's got a trans brake. He told me that. I need to get good on these trees. I practiced. I don't know if I told you, 3 months. I practiced for 2 hours a day on that Jegs used to have an app you could download.
Yeah.
You put it on like an iPhone or something. And all I had was my wife had got an iPad, and I would practice on that thing 2 hours a day for 3 months. And, oh man, it made me better, but gosh, that's so hard to do on a car with no trans brake. And then you got like a 26-inch tall front tire.
Mm-hmm.
Your rollout's like a bus length.
I loved the 26 tire for me. And
Yeah.
and everyone would always show up with like say a 24 or even smaller. I was still good for a 40 with my button with a 26 tire because I would go red if I had a 24.
Oh, well, I would always be 130, 140, and sometimes 180 with that 26-inch tall tire and a foot brake. But a lot of people, if you've never raced before on a pro tree, okay, I'm going to tell you, my first time on a pro tree, I rolled up to that light, and I'm sitting there with Shane like, D, or it wasn't even you. I mean, whoever was racing, right? Pro tree. I think it was probably McBee.
Yeah.
That light went down, and I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, oh, crap, that light's green. How late am I if I'm realizing the light's green and I'm saying all this in my head? You know, I'm like really late.
Yeah.
And McBee had taken me to school. He was halfway down the track before I even got out of the off the line.
Well, there's 3 people that learned about a pro tree at the No Name Nationals. I practiced with my dart all weekend, actually all week on a pro tree to launch, and I was cutting a .111 in my Slant 6 dart on a pro tree.
That's really good.
That's decent. So there was all 3 of my races that actually 4 that I had at the No Name Nationals. I did in a pro tree because they were faster, and that was the only way I could level the playing field. So that's how I learned.
Well, back to some tech talk here.
Sure.
Oh, you know what we didn't do? Normally at the top of the hour, you like to do like a serious tech question, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of blew past that. We haven't been reading any comments. Let's read Jonathan Couch's comment here, and then we'll talk about a secret development between Professor P and Mr. Rodder's neighborhood. And did you have your heavy tech question for tonight?
No, I've been looking through. No one's really done it today. I was a little busy today we're getting ready for SEMA and PRI, so I didn't really have much time to,
no problem,
to get it done. But
so Jonathan Couch asks, does anyone make a camshaft for the 4.7 Powertech camera V8? I really like the chamber design, but it would have to be an NA build, glass pistons. I'm assuming he means by hypertechnic by that.
Yeah, probably 4.7.
I think that's the Chrysler 4.7, right?
Yeah. No, I've done that a few. I think that thing's like a Mercedes-Benz engine. If I'm forgetting, I did a regrind on a few of those cams, but you can only get so much out of them. I'm sitting here trying to remember the numbers, but it was like, I think I was able to go 10 degrees on it. I didn't add any more lift to it because then we'd have to change springs. But I think it got up to like say 210 duration at 50, and then we tightened up the LSA by about 2 degrees, and it really made a difference in that engine. But the problem is tuning it. You change the camshaft that much, you're going to have some overlap in it. It was no hard. It was the guy who got it just couldn't put enough fuel into it with the system he had.
Well, I think those things are so few of them being hot rodded. There's not a lot of experts out there on them, right? And that's what it takes is like, if you ever notice, it'll take 2-3 years for somebody to crack something when it comes out. It's new, right? Remember how the Dodges used to be like 04, 05, 06?
Yeah.
And then one guy finally figured it out, right? And then they got the crack on it. And then it was like, from there, it was all downhill. And then everybody kind of learned. But that one guy was the one holding the key. That 4.7, I don't think that's ever been an engine that anybody's jumped on. And it suffers from the same thing like my Buick 300 stuff does. It's just not a desirable cubic inch. Not a lot of people. That's not to say that it's a turd. I'm just saying that it's not a desirable cubic inch. So people don't go after 4.7. So you don't have a lot of guys that could go in there with EFI and crack that, what that thing really likes and what it doesn't. Spend hours and hours and hours on a dyno. And if you think about it, there was a zillion guys lined up to do to a 6.4, right?
Yep.
So that's I think what Shane's talking about is like the camshaft design and profile really probably isn't there because no one's ever taken the time to really sort one of those out. And if they did, the EFI guy wasn't there to sort that out.
That's right. Yeah. It ran okay. It ran better than factory. It was in a truck, obviously, but it It was okay, but by the time the next year, I think he had a 5.7 Hemi in it, and it ran rings around that thing that he put all that time into building and doing the head work and doing all that. So it wasn't even worth it at that point.
So
So
Shane and I worked together. The biggest thing with I was working on a big block Buick that I called um, the I don't give an F Friday 430, and it was the one that I did all the oiling mods on. I had it bored, stuff like that. And I had originally posted the video up, and I had somebody actually chime in and say, "Hey, I'll take that motor if you can put a camshaft in it." And I'm like, normal me. Oh, okay, I'll put a cam in it. And you call every manufacturer, and nobody has a core. So I was like, "Holy crap!" Well, I talked to Shane, and he said, "Yeah, it's just no one's manufacturing cores, right?" And there's not much you can do about it. Well, I started thinking, like, you know what? I could regrind something. So I asked him about regrinds. He said, "Yeah, we can still do those." So I'm like, if I provide my own core, I'm over the problem. So I searched around and I found this pretty healthy, solid flat tapping Buick big block cam that was virtually sitting on a shelf. It was going to go in the trash, and it had been dinged on one of the lobes from an engine that had blown up. And I asked him, "Hey, can you regrind this?" And I give him kind of a basic idea of the profile. Here's what I'm kind of shooting for, something around this neighborhood. And then he asked me, what characteristics I wanted with the camshaft. Oh man, it's got to have all the famous Buick low end torque, but I need some chop. And then the horsepower number is whatever it makes, it'll be at wherever it is. And so he came up with this profile, and now we got this pretty awesome, I guess it'd be a backdoor knock, that you do at to pick up a camshaft that isn't really on the books anywhere.
No, those profiles, those masters were actually just designed for that cam profile. So they're everything you wanted, and it's everything that I wanted to do when I was doing all the camshafts for should I say it, TA Performance? Yeah, I designed all the cams for TA Performance, and they're heavy Buick people out in Arizona somewhere, and they have a camshaft that's super popular. And there's things I always wanted to do, so I was able to do everything I wanted to do. And I'm not going to give out numbers because that's for Dallas to give out, but I did everything that I wanted to do on that camshaft, and it's got some really, really awesome. It's got all the new state-of-the-art lobes on it, and it's going to be a monster. It's going to do everything it wants to do and more. I think he's going to be super surprised with it.
I hope so. I mean, it literally is. It's a nice piece.
I'm telling you, videotape when that thing starts up, when it runs, and when you tune it in. I'm telling you right now, it's going to sell itself 100%.
Think so, huh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it makes me want to go throw it on a dyno to see what it does.
I think I'm trying to get you motivated to get out and do it.
Oh well, what do you get out and do it, put it together?
Yeah.
No, that won't be a problem. I got to get it done here like in the next week and a half. So,
okay, good.
Good. I just am trying to get caught up from. Unfortunately, I had no name nationals. Well, I mean, fortunately, I had no name nationals, but it fell at the end of the month, right? So, if you've ever had a small business, the end of the month or the beginning of the month is like the worst, because that's when you got to do all the books. You got to catch everything up. And then I have all the memberships that expired this month. I got to tell them, hey, your membership's expired. And then the ones that are going to expire this new month, I need to email them and tell them their stuff is going to expire.
Yeah.
And and then I had normal stuff, where it's like, hey, I'm the membership card printer, and I'm not going to work today,
Right.
So yeah, you just get caught up on it all. So Michael Schmidt says, Cam, how does one go about getting a higher performance cam for less than a popular car, say a 51 Plymouth Flathead 6? What cam companies do you recommend for getting a few cams, different grinds?
Happen to work for one, so we're not going to have a core for that, so you're going to have to send us a core, and as long as it's a usable core, we can profile it, and then we can just cut what we can onto it. But yeah, whenever you send in something like that, obviously we have the numbers, but I would look at the lifter to measure the diameter of the lifter, and also to send in a lifter to us, so that way we can kind of look at it and make sure that we have something that can replace it, or if it's going to be a custom made deal. I'm not super familiar with the Plymouth Flatheads. I've tuned a lot of them. I've never torn one apart and or put a camshaft into one of them. But I don't think it's going to be much different than, like, say, a regular, Ford Flathead. You know what I mean? As far as, obviously it's an inline, but as far as it's a Briggs and Stratton engine, let's put it that way.
My 2 cents, and Shane. I know Shane wants you to use comp, but the guys that have been in this for a long time are going to have,
I didn't even know there was people. So yeah, go for it. Yeah, that's the way to go.
The one that I think that comes to mind that's been around for a long time is probably Schneider in San Diego. Get yourself a burrito, order that camshaft, because their windows are right across the street from each other.
Yeah, right.
And order a cam from Schneider, pick it up in a couple of weeks. I'm sure them guys have been in it since like literally day one. Where the story goes that I think Schneider was him and Bruce Crowder, which was Crowder cams. They were like best buds.
They
right?
were.
They went into business together.
Yep. And Crowder. They separated. Yep.
And it got to be where they were going at each other, so they went their separate ways.
Mm-hmm.
And Schneider started after Crowder. So those companies probably have already a profile set aside for your 51 Plymouth Flathead sticks.
They have the profiles, and in fact, I do know that they just don't have the cores.
Yeah, they might not have a blank. So the easiest thing to do: get yourself one of those camshafts. Worst case scenario, weld it up, have it reground.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So there was you missed it, Shane. There's a whole bunch of awesome porn stuff that jumped up here.
Woo.
And then Doug Narden says, so I like naked chicks, but I like bench racing more, right?
Me too.
And then Danny Boyd says, my community guidelines have been offended. Show us your stuff.
Right. Hold on. I actually have a really nice shirt on right now.
Oh, Slant Daily Garage. There you go.
There you go. So you get to see the boobs. There you go.
Yeah. So let's see if we can catch up here. I got to blow through all this stuff, and somebody already got the porn, guys. So let's see. Oh, there's Destroyer Eric. He's in here. I don't know if he's still in here. Let's see.
I'm all the way at the bottom.
Says, any chance you can elaborate on the 5.7 Hemi? Got a 2015 Ram I want to work on.
Yeah. Actually, because we're getting close to the 20-minute mark, send your question, Clint Street Machines, to slantdailygarage@yahoo.com. But yeah, the 5.7 Hemi, you're going to have, with that one, you're going to have the Eagle heads on it. So it's going to be VVT. It's going to have the MDS on it more than likely. Some of the Rams did, some of the Rams didn't. But yeah, there is a whole plethora of stuff that we can do up there for that. And we have all the dyno sheets for the camshafts. So yeah, I can tell you exactly what we'll
do. So Ron's asking me, have I released the group photo yet from the starting line? No. I'm not lying. And I had every intention of doing that, but I have been caught up. I've been caught up in trying to get caught up. And then this live, my weeks kind of suck because I have something just almost every night, extracurricular activity. And I'm trying to prepare for Northeast. I will have it out tomorrow, though. I will put that out. And I actually wanted to put out the problem I'm having. I don't have a problem with the picture. The problem I'm having is the post that I want to make about how awesome the No Name Nationals was, and I don't want to leave anything out. And that's the hard part I'm having. You could whip something up and bang, but it's got to do that picture justice. So,
can you go back up to unfinished project? Asks what's needed to run a trans brake on a street car that's driven daily. Really, it comes down to what transmission you're going to run. If it's going to be like, say, a Mopar, you're definitely going to have a bolt-in sprag. I mean, this could go on forever. So send that question to Slant Daily Garage at Yahoo. Tell me what transmission it is. Tell me the car and everything, and I'll tell you a list of everything you need to put into it. But really, it's not. I drove for a while with the trans brake in my driver. As long as you don't activate it, it's no big deal. You need it for reverse though, because that's how you back up. But other than that, really nothing.
So Just Devil Garages says, are there any good off-the-shelf cams for the Mopar Magnum roller cam engines?
I don't know. I think there is. Yeah. This is I know the part numbers for the company that I used to work for. I just don't know the part numbers for the ones that I have right now. So, yes, we do. I just don't know the part numbers for them. But they're if it's a factory deal, you're going to be. I can tell you're going to be want to be in the 212 duration of 50. No tighter than like say a 112 LSA, and then spread that thing out to like say a 218, 220. And as far as lift goes, depending on what heads, 450 is about it on those. Sometimes you can get up to 500 on those, but really the 450 is about it. But really on the Magnum roller, instead of changing the camshaft, just change the rocker arm. So it's a cheaper deal. You can get yourself some of those come with 1.5s and they sell the 1.6s, and they have a conversion kit. So that way you can run a Chevrolet rocker arm, and you can even go up to a 1.7 on that. And then you're going to gain a lot more lift. That way you don't change the super characteristics of the camshaft. You're just going to get more power out of it. And that way you don't have to change the tune of the car. It's just going to make more power. It's just going to make more air.
That's how I used to cheat it with small block Fords. They had those Cobra 1.7 rockers. I put them on everything that had a small block Ford. Even my Ford truck that I drive all over the country has 1.7 Cobra rockers on it.
Yep.
Because it is the easiest, simplest thing to do.
Yep.
Is change the ratio on that suckers.
That's right. And you just gain everything, because then you're opening it up faster, you're closing it later and faster. So you're getting all the amount of air in the backside on the fill. So it's everything you can use,
Yeah. So Hook, Line, and Fishing asks, Shane, is there a cam you recommend for the 5.7 with Eagle heads for the 600 to 600 go? I'm assuming that should be 600 to 700.
Yeah. The 600, 700, there's really not going to, at that point, you're going to really need to do some work on the heads. Or if it's a 5.7 early version, say like pre 2009, and then you put the Eagle heads on that, you're going to have like say 13 to 1 or 12 to 1 compression. So if you did that, in that case, then yes, you could make 600 to 700, because that head will flow. I think it's 330 CFM right out of the box. But the heads don't flow that great on the exhaust side. So the camshaft is going to be in the 235, 255. I know that sounds like a big split, but you're going to need it to compensate and to RPM that thing. Put on a 112 LSA, and that thing's really going to talk to you and make some good number.
Well, I think I may have went too fast because I caught completely up, and now
that's all right.
Oh, I guess not.
All right. No, there's mostly old parts and rust. Dust Devil Garage comps to 20 dash is the biggest cam you can go with stock heads. Yes, that he is correct on that. You can go that's the biggest you can go, but you can always make a custom cam, because we have different profiles that are not on these are designed for the average guy to put in, but there's a lot of custom profiles out there that have more benefits. They're opening faster, closing faster, so you're gonna have to change. I definitely would change springs, because that's where you're going to gain the powers is opening it faster and closing it faster.
So Max Wedge Dick Dastardly says, I'd like to get a 1.6 or 1.7 for factory Max Wedge cam. And if you didn't know this is what NASCAR teams were doing like early 2000s. Is they went to like a 1.9 rocker ratio or 2.0.
Yeah, 2.0s. Yeah, 2.1s. Because then you're cutting down on the amount of mass. The lifter has mass. The push rod is massed.
Also, the cam itself becomes a smaller lobe, so that rotational mass becomes less, right?
Yeah, that's right. And also too, with the 2.1, you're getting a mechanical advantage on the spring closing it. So that way you have a lot more force pushing everything back down. So it's just better, always better to have a higher ratio.
Let's see. Michael Schmidt says, top drag racing for fun suspension mods for a 50s leaf spring car with boat-like handling. Seems like car leaves the line 3 seconds after clutch is released. Lots of useless motion. And I'm sure it is, because it only gets worse the further you go back, right? 80s car is not that great. And then 70s car, you're like, what a wallowing pig. And you go to a 60s car and you're like, I didn't think it could be worse. So I can only imagine a 50s car literally almost separates itself from this chassis.
Right.
And I guess leaf sprung car, the good thing is leaf spring technology didn't change much from the 50s all the way through the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say Caltrax is the biggest thing for that deal, right? And using, let's say, a monoleaf spring with a Caltrax setup is probably going to be the ideal ticket for that. I don't know if I'm not a big leaf springer guy. Shane, do you still have leafs on any of your stuff?
Yes. My actual drag race car has got Caltrax on it, so it's got leaf springs on it.
Okay. So did you ever go to the monoleaf or fiberglass leaf?
Nope. I still have actual leaves. Like
With leaf packs on it, the whole 9
yeah.
yards?
Yep.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I have the Caltrax. I have the mono leaves for it. I just never put them on. So mine has got it's got the single leaf that goes back, but it's got the the Chrysler 7 leaves that go forward.
Huh.
So yeah.
Well, I would say that since that suspension hasn't changed much in those years, that would be the ticket. And then some adjustable shocks on it would make all the difference in the world, drag car wise, for the rear. And I found that the lower you can get the rear and the more you can tighten it up, the better it'll 60 foot.
Yeah.
But if you're hitting it with a clutch, well, yeah, no, that's still going to be the same way because it'd just be like a trans brake, right?
It's
Um,
exactly. Yep.
The front, there's kind of a misnomer. When you have a low horsepower car and a lot of weight, they want you to have it sloppy and loosey goosey. Okay. When you have a high horsepower car and not a lot of weight, I've found that the less travel I can put in it, the better the car reacts. Because it just hits the rear end that much harder and that much quicker. Because the front isn't traveling 2 feet before you move, right?
Yep.
It just smacks the rear end and you go. I don't know what kind of power that thing's making, but I'll say pull some travel out of it. Find a shorter shock, something that's like an inch, maybe 2 inches shorter, and see what happens with it. If it falls off the 60 foot, if you do like I said, where you tighten up that rear end and drop it down some, and the 60 foot comes around, and it starts to get better, start playing with the front end then, and take 2 inches out of it. And if it starts slowing down, add another inch in it, right?
What I would do is go and get some Rancho 9000 shocks. They actually have a dial on them that it's a
do
really
they?
simple. Yeah, they have a dial on them, so you can adjust them. That's actually what I have on the back of my car. Instead of buying all these super expensive adjustable shocks, I went out and just got some Rancho 9000s, and they have a 6 adjustable shock for rebound and an extension. So it's designed for like an off-road vehicle. So like 1 is really loose, 6 is really tight. So yeah, you can tune it in. And I found that 2 works the best with foot brakes, and then on the trans brake, a 4 works the best.
Oh, that's sweet. That's sweet
Yeah.
info. I did not know that the Rancho 9000 off-road shock had an adjustability to it.
Yeah. And in fact, I think Caltrax uses that shock. I think that's what they use when they sell their adjustable shock.
Now, the one thing I do know is if you wanted to really dial it in yourself, okay, if you buy a set of those Ranchos, no problem, right? And have you ever heard the trick where people drill a hole in them?
Yeah.
What you do is you drill a hole in them and drain the fluid out.
Yeah.
RC car companies, okay, you can go buy different viscosity fluids to put in those things in the shocks, and then it changes. The valving still remains the same on when you're in with your adjustability. You're tweaking the knob, right? All it's doing is changing the orifice size of the orifice
fluid
plate across the tube, right?
Yeah, so that way, yeah, exactly. So how fast it goes through and transfers it. Yeah.
Right. If you change the viscosity of the fluid, that orifice is still adjustable. So then you can, once you thicken it up or you thin it out, because you'll want to drill a hole in it and then drain the fluid into a cup and then try to determine the viscosity. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you either thicken it or you thin it.
That's right.
But you use RC carb shock fluid. You can buy them. It used to come in like a 4-pack. You had like a yellow, green, red, and then like a purple. Okay. And it's lightest to darkest, right? Or lightest to strongest.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you add it in, and you can change those and change your valving without buying a whole bunch of different shocks. And then once you get it dialed in, the plug that you put in there, you just tap it and put a bolt in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Hey, go down to Doug
Narden?
Narden. Yeah, he said, after I build my 451 stroker, I want to eventually upgrade to max wedge size. Aftermarket has an intake. Do they offer a max wedge tunnel port ram? Actually, Edelbrock does. Part number on that is 77949. Once again, that's 77949. That is a Victor max wedge cylinder head, and yes, it is. It works phenomenal.
Well, so the other thing you can put in there to plug it off besides a bolt is a Zerk fitting. A Zerk fitting for like grease.
Right?
They hold tons of pressure.
Yes.
So let's see here. Let's see. Mostly old parts is saying, Ron's saying, put a 50s car, put on slapper bars and make sure the snubber hits right at the front spring eye.
Yeah, that I was actually going to mention
trick. Yeah.
I was going to mention a slapper bar and then just put, a clamp on it so that way it doesn't hang down too far. So that way when you hit it, it only moves up an inch and then it's on it. Or you can even put preload right on it,
Oh, man. Let's see here. Listen to this. Hook, line, and fishing is saying, my Scion gasser.
Nice.
That's like two words that you never would have thought would be the same thing, right? My Scion gasser is getting a 346 pack out of my late father's AHRA CUDA, putting a ton of RAM on it. Only thing I have of my dad's.
That's
hey man,
awesome.
That's bitching. I'll tell you what. When my dad passed away, my buddy Chris, his dad had passed away. Maybe 3 years before that, 4 years before that, something like that. And he told me something real interesting. Get your dad's toolbox, because every time you go in there and you grab a tool, you'll think of that dude, right?
That's right.
And I thought that was pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did. Is I grabbed my dad's toolbox. So. And Doug saying, sweetness, thanks, Professor P.
No problem. That's what I'm here for.
I'm still digging my Scion gasser. That is
I'm telling
badass.
You, that's an oxymoron right there.
Well, I've always wanted to do a PT Cruiser gasser because I thought it'd be cool, or an HHR.
Yeah.
And you just take the gasser treatment and do it to one of those cars, right? Because they're a dime a dozen. You can get them for like $100.
Cheap. Yeah.
And the gasser guys would hate you. Right?
It's perfect.
The import guys that hate you.
It's perfect.
The Mopar guys that hate you. You wouldn't fit in anywhere.
It's perfect.
But to me, it's the epitome of what a gasser really is.
Yeah, it's the cheapest car at the time.
Cheap car. It has the looks.
Yeah.
I don't see why it wouldn't work.
Yeah, wheelies are super desirable because at the time they were just throwaway crap that people could get.
Right, and they're just junked out, right?
Yeah, they were junked out. Now everybody wants a Willys, let's have a gas or Willys. But that's only because they were the cheapest cars at the time. They're
PT Cruiser and HHR fits that bill these days, and they look the part, right? Especially if you get like that panel, HHR panel.
Right? Yeah, that'd be cool. I was always wanting to get one of those. Remember the Prowler? Why they never offered one in a V8 is beyond me. But
I know, because it was a Intrepid drivetrain.
Oh yeah, that's right, huh?
Yeah, so they were rear engine, rear drive, but the one before we get, because we're getting ready to head off here, we only got a couple of minutes. The one I always thought was amazing that no one ever did.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I saw one. Somebody brought it up one time. Shot me a picture of it. I always liked the Chrysler, the Cherokee, Jeep Cherokee XJ 2-wheel drive Sport. Right?
Yes.
Because they're a box, they're a unibody, they're actually lightweight. All the windows are straight up and down. You can
and it's already got a straight axle.
Yeah, and it has a straight axle in the front, right? So a straight axle, if you don't know, is ideal for drag racing because it doesn't change the geometry as the car goes up and down.
That's right.
Right? And that's what makes them, in my opinion. They also have a quick ratio GM steering box you can get off of an S10.
Right.
They also have disc brakes up front. An 8.8 damn near falls into the truck and almost bolts itself in. Man, the other one was the windows. The windows are straight square. You can literally go into Lowe's and get some Lexan and just cut a square and put it in the truck. And now you've lost 200 pounds.
That's funny you say that, because I've thought about that so many times. My friend had a Cherokee, and I'm just like, man, that would just be a perfect gasser. It's funny because I saw it and I was like, it's a straight axle right out of the bat, because it was a 2-wheel drive. It was a totally worthless Jeep, but at the time I was like, man, that'd be a great drag racer. It's already, everything's there.
Oh, yeah. Hook, Line, and Fishing is the one that sent me the picture of that Jeep, because I talked about it before on Wednesday Night Live. That's one of the things I've always wanted to do, is one of those XJs. Tony had a perfect one for it. He had a 2-door sport, 4-cylinder, automatic. It had been sitting 20-something years. It was white. I tried to get it from him, and he's like, no, I don't sell any of my fleet. None of my fleet. We were sitting doing a Wednesday Night Live, and a guy came in to buy the damn thing. And I mean, my jaw almost hit the freaking ground. And so, I mean, I couldn't believe you're selling your fleet, man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it wasn't to me. And I thought that thing would be so cool. All right. Well, you know what? We're at the 2-hour mark, folks. Yeah. I think
that 2 hours went fast.
I know. Yes, Danny Boyd, 2-wheel drive XJs are still straight axle. That's true. 100%.
100%. Yep. My buddy had one, and I looked at it. I remember getting up to it going, that is perfect. I was just dragster right there.
I wonder what the width is, and maybe if it can be put in a truck easy or something.
Yeah, it's a small thing. In fact, I measured it out one time, and I was actually going to grab one and put it in a dart to make it a gasser, because I think it came out to the exact same length that I needed.
Same width, huh?
Same width.
That's awesome.
Yep.
All right. Well, hey, that's it for Wednesday.
Yep.
See you guys on the flip side. And
if there was questions, sorry to interrupt, but if there was questions we didn't get to, you could always send them to slantdailygarage@yahoo.com, slantdailygarage@yahoo.com. And there was I forget him, mostly old parts and rust. Yes, I did see, he did send me his question, and I did see it in there. I got quite a bit in there, so I just didn't notice it. So, but yes, I do have it, and I'll be answering those throughout the week.
Well, we'll see you next Wednesday. Yep. Friday is John Wilburn's live, where we'll discuss the in depth the No Name Nationals. So, and you know where we're at for next year, which is like literally nowhere. We haven't even talked about it yet. I know we're going to have one, but that's about it. So yeah. I'll see you guys Friday, and then Shane and I will be back next Wednesday.
That's right. You guys take it easy.
All right. See you all later.
Night.